So welcome everyone to the ARCHICAD User Monthly Webinar for February 2025. My name is Eric Bobrow, and it's my pleasure to bring to the stage to welcome and introduce Daniel Lindahl, an Australian architect who I've had the pleasure of working with a little bit here and there over the years. He's an accomplished designer as well as a GDL expert, has created a lot of library parts that he uses in his own work and used to sell through an online portal called Objects Online. Some of you may remember that back in the day, so to speak. So Daniel, welcome. All of a sudden you're muted, so you need to turn back on your mic.
Good morning, Eric, and good morning everyone else here. Hi. Starting up this morning, I ran into a little bit of a glitch opening the projects that I wanted to work in. So OpenGL isn't working in those projects. So the 3D images will look a bit more simplistic than what you're used to. But
oh, really? Wow. Have you tried rebooting your computer?
No, I haven't. But
all right. Well, I think it would be worth
about to do
doing that.
Sorry?
Okay, so reboot and rejoin the webinar, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks, Eric.
Right. So technical issues. Please let us know that you can hear us. We aren't sharing the screen, but we are sharing the webcam. So type into the questions area where you're calling in from, and of course, just confirm that you can at least see me and Daniel at the moment, but Daniel's going to be rebooting the computer to try to get his ARCHICAD fully functional. So I see Derek from Washington, D.C., Kelly from Utah, Stuart from Melbourne, okay, another Aussie, and Chris from Denver, Tom from Edmonds, Washington, okay. So we have a good crowd, 39 people on the line right now. So for those of you who missed what just happened 2 minutes ago, we said hello to Daniel briefly, and he mentioned that he had a tech issue, that his ARCHICAD projects were not working with OpenGL all of a sudden. So I suggested that it would be worth rebooting his computer. So he's going to do that. Hopefully he'll be able to come back within the next couple of minutes and we'll get started. So yeah, I can see Michael and Rick and Richard and Dwayne. And Rich Matthews, you're up in Kamloops, BC. What are you doing there? You know, all right. Kamloops is a beautiful part of British Columbia. I remember visiting there years and decades ago, literally. All right. Okay. So while we're waiting, let me know what you want me to ask Daniel. Obviously, we're going to take a look at some of his projects. We're going to take a look at some of his library parts. He is told me that he will be sharing a batch of them. I don't know exactly how many with users with that I can just distribute. He used to sell some of these through Objects Online, but Objects Online is no more. And so I suggested that if he wanted to just get them out for people to take advantage of, I could facilitate that. All right. So if you have some specific questions about ARCHICAD or about Daniel's work or anything else, just put them into the chat, and hopefully Daniel will get back soon. So Doug says my audio is stuttering a bit today. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know. I have a good signal here generally, pretty solid upload and download speeds. Let me know if anyone else is experiencing stuttering, from the audio feed, because Doug says maybe it's on his end. So yeah, just if you're hearing me and it's all bright and clear, then please share that so we know that it's probably on his end. Or if others are having the same audio issue, then I'm not sure what I can do about it, but at least it would identify that. All right, so same issue there. So Ricardo, so I guess maybe it's on my side. Stuart says audio is fine, but video freezes intermittently. Okay. Rick says no issues. Okay. So I'm guessing since some of you have no issues that it's not my feed, but it's something in in between here and there, you know, in terms of go to webinar and where you're located. Anyway, okay. So hopefully Daniel will come back. Let me just see, maybe he has signed back in as an attendee. Yeah, no, that's different Daniel. Hopefully he'll be back soon enough. Let me see. Don't see any note from him. Hopefully he comes back quickly. All right, so my apologies for the delay. I mean, stuff happens, right? I'm going to tell you then while I'm waiting for Daniel to show up, what I'm excited about these days, and that's AI stuff. So I'm sure many of you have been experimenting with AI things. I have this whole other business that many of you know about called Architect Marketing Institute. So we help architects with marketing and sales. So teaching effective marketing strategies to help you attract and win the best clients and projects for your firm. One of the issues has always been that it takes time to work out your marketing messages, what you're going to say, whether it's in person, you know, your elevator pitch that is beyond just, hey, I'm an architect. Do you have something that you want to talk about? So that sort of value statement of what makes you special, as well as what goes on a website, what goes into proposals, what happens when you're in a meeting, etc. Now the AI, one of the things that it is so powerful about is that it can write a lot of words. I mean, there are some issues, sometimes you can ask the AI something and it'll, it may hallucinate is what they say. So meaning it'll try to give you an answer, even if it isn't something that it knows about, but it'll be plausible. But overall, for communicating, valuable information, summarizing meetings, or taking materials and turning them into something else, it's fantastic. So we're finding that we have tools now that are actually agents that can do things on your behalf. And this is something we've been experimenting with at Architect Marketing Institute. So now we have ones that not only can write articles, but can create web materials for the website. We can even have the AI agent pretend to be a potential client and have a conversation, a voice conversation with you. And then a separate agent can review it and say, you did pretty well, but when the person mentioned concerns about budget, you really didn't address that. You just said, yeah, we always try to come in on time and on budget, but you didn't really give details of your process. Oh, okay, yeah, it would be good to share how we do that. Or you didn't give case studies, or you really, didn't empathize. So the sales coach is an amazing thing. You can literally get effective coaching from the AI. Now I'm still hoping that Daniel is showing back up. Where the heck is Daniel? He has not made it. So he rebooted his computer and he has not come back. Wow, this is frustrating. How many of you have been using AI for any type of creative things? Obviously, there are AI things related to design as well. There are tools that allow you to take a sketch or some image and change it in certain ways, put different materials on it, add landscaping or people. I know in ARCHICAD, there's some things related to guidance for certain tasks. Graphisoft just announced some things recently. I haven't looked too closely at it. Have any of you spent any time with the AI stuff? So Dwayne says only testing AI in ARCHICAD 28. So I'm just going to, because we're waiting for Daniel Lindahl to come again, I'm going to just open up Dwayne's line. And if you have a microphone, you can just click on the mic icon and just tell me what you've been doing with the AI in ARCHICAD 28. So Dwayne, your line is open, and I'd love to at least hear your comments. And if anyone else has been doing AI in anything, Doug Muir, checking building code in AI, but can't be trusted. Graduate research assistant is the best description. Okay, interesting. So let me open up your line, Doug, since Dwayne hasn't actually responded by opening up by clicking on his microphone icon.
Hey, Eric.
Still don't see Daniel. Hey there, how you doing, Doug?
I'm good.
So
my version is ChatGPT, and I've been using it for quite a few months now, and I have a lot of fun with it. With my work and outside of that, tracking peculiarities, a thing in a movie or something like that, but that's not what we're here for. Within the business, I think the only thing I've really leaned on it for is I'm doing a lot of work in renovations in Brooklyn, and you can imagine that the New York codes are pretty convoluted, and so and my memory's not exceptional. I've never had a good memory, and I'm not a young man, so I'm not trusting my memory. So I'm going to ChatGPT to ask it questions to say, which section of the code is this covered in, and it actually volunteers some great information, but I actually have enough experience to know that it's been wrong on a couple of occasions. So I'm telling anybody else who did this, you just don't trust it, but use it to collect information, but then cross-reference, either go back and read it yourself, or maybe bring your own memory into play again now that you've got a couple of good reminders. It activates things that you might not have remembered before. So I think it's really, really valuable, and I recommend it, but just be cautious.
Right. Okay. Well, I agree that you always need to check on things because it can either fabricate things potentially or not fully understand it the way a human or an expert would. But being able to just ask from a voluminous data, like building codes, for relevant places to check can be a big time saver, and summarizing things, and often it will be right on. In fact, more and more of the time it will be right on. There is a tool, so the general tools like Open ChatGPT will do some intelligent summary and finding things, but there is a tool called Perplexity, like I'm perplexed. So Perplexity will do research, and it actually will cite or give you links to where it found the information. So for things that are more mission critical, you may find that useful. They have a free version, and then you pay a small amount per month if you want to use it more. But it's well known that it will do more research, it will check on things, and whatever it tells you, it will have links to. So it makes it pretty straightforward to say, yeah, I can trust this because it told me something and I can see exactly where it came from. So
great. I made a note. I'm definitely going to look into that. I did remember that I also used it a few months back for getting a few spec sections that are always tedious for me to write. So when it created the section, again, I felt I had to go back and read it carefully and maybe check on some things. But basically, it gets you started with a good block of text that then gives you something to work in. I mean, I always go back and edit my own work 2 days later, and it's sort of like, this is what I did on Wednesday, and now I better check what I did on Monday and make it real.
Right. I'm just sending an email to Daniel. He was on, for those of you who came in a few minutes in, Daniel was on, and he just had a tech issue with his computer, and I told him, suggested that he reboot, which normally, of course, for most of us, you reboot and 2 or 3 minutes later, you're back together. And maybe he's got some serious issue with his computer because he has not rejoined the call. So this AI thing, so Ken Brooks, you asked, how may I join using Slack? So Ken, we're the Slack workspace for the ARCHICAD coaching program, and certainly I will pay attention to that. I do see Steve Nickel has posted, I'm a beginner in Promi AI, so that's an AI tool for visualization. And let's just bring up Steve's line, since we're still waiting for Daniel Lindahl to come back in. Wow, this is frustrating, but we'll see if we get through it. So Steve, you've opened up your line, I mean, I've opened up your line. So just share a little bit of what you're using AI for.
I am, excuse the, I have some smoke alarm beeps that you're going to hear probably. Anyway, I take a image created in ARCHICAD, bring it into Promi AI, however you say it, and it generates a fairly realistic, photorealistic, I should say, image, but there are things that don't look exactly correct.
Right. So this is a way of taking a rough image or a simple image and dressing it up and making it look more like a finished rendering. Is that right?
That's correct. The downside is that compared to like Twinmotion, it's just a photo, just one
right. Yeah.
shot. You can't move around and take a look at it from other angles. But it's obviously wave of the future. It's a matter of figuring out how to use it.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So I still don't see Daniel. Wow, this is frustrating here. Well, what are we? 20 minutes after. Well, we'll keep going for a few minutes talking about this topic here of AI. I don't know. I mean, I could demonstrate some things. Not sure if that's the best use of our time. Anyone have any questions?
I'll send you an example if that makes any sense for now.
All right. So I have ARCHICAD open, and of course I can demonstrate and do some other types of things. Okay, so Dean writes, I just asked Perplexity what caused the Twin Towers to come down on 9/11, and it gave me the standard narrative. Okay. Well, I'll open up your line, Dean. I don't know why you would ask that question, which would have, certainly a lot of detail on the web that would be the standard narrative, and maybe some alternative explanations that might be of interest. But that
there's a whole
sounds
bunch
like
there's a whole bunch of
Go ahead, Jane.
Alaska, a university in Alaska did a lot of research into the what alternative theories of what brought it down, and controlled demolition comes up pretty often. So I was just kind of curious and a little disappointed.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know whether there's censorship involved or whether it's just you found something interesting that caught your eye, but it's really only a very small percentage of what's out there, and therefore it didn't pick it up. You might, for something like that, probe and say, I've heard about X, I've heard about controlled demolition there. what can you tell me about it? And then of course it'll search more directly for, you know, what you want to know more about. Anyway, yeah, and then of course it'll.
It's Doug again. I've got a simple little question that I stumbled on a few days ago that you might be able to help us out with, just to pass some time. I'm doing some stairs, and when I pull up, when I'm looking at the stair and plan, there's times when I want to turn on the information that has notes and regarding the various aspects of the stair that you want in a larger scale. But then in another drawing sheet, I might have the floor plan and I don't want any notes. It's just an overview for the benefit of saying how many square feet, but here's where the stair is, things like that. So is there a place in the stair tool that you can switch the notation on and off? Or do you have to create another version of the view or something like that?
Okay, well, let's take a look at that. Certainly. Let's go here. So I'm going to see Daniel. Still don't see Daniel Lindahl back in here. Okay, so I'll just keep on checking to see if he shows back up, and if he's sent anything by email. No, don't see anything. All right, so let me share my screen. We'll take a look at this general ARCHICAD question here. So I am now. You should be seeing my screen here.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here we have a stair. It's showing, you know, I just popped in one arbitrarily, and it's showing just the bottom part, not the upper part. Now, there are settings that relate to the element itself that control some types of visibility. So for example, in this element, the floor plan display, it says that on the relevant story, which is typically the bottom of it, but you can say that the relevant story is the top. You can say, what does it look like? And this little pop-up, it says below break mark visible. So it's only showing what's below, you know, the 4-foot level, the break mark level in this case. But I could say with a break mark visible and hidden, that means that the lower part is going to look one way, the upper part will look in a different style, indicating that it's hidden on some level. I don't know why they use the word hidden, but you know, it's above the viewer. You can see here's the preview, and I say okay. And now when I deselect it, we can see what it's showing. So that's one type of control, is in the element itself. Now there's also, it says up, and it has some notation here. These are controllable within the element, but we're going to see if there are some things that you can turn on or off through global settings. So let's just say in this thing here, if I go in and say, do I want the up-down text? Right now, it says it's going to show on relevant stories, this up and down text. It's going to show at the bottom of the stair saying that it's going up. And I could say the second one, which probably says down, I'll say put at the top of the stair. You can see. All right, so that's one thing. There it is. Probably doesn't make sense in this to have that. But if you were to, if we were to say, don't show that here, then above relevant stories, meaning when you're on the next story up, maybe you do want to show the bottom and top, the up, down here. So with this checked, what'll happen is if I go up to the next story here, you can see now it's showing the down, and it's showing it only above here. And I'm going to go back down here. So when we're on the lower story, it shows one thing. When we're on the upper story, something else. So this again is part of the stair options, whether you say, hey, do I want to show up, down, above the relevant story? And if so, what do I want? And that's separate from what we have at the lower story. Now let's look at the global settings that we have. You notice that when I zoom in on this, that we have hard lines here, which would be the edge of the step, and then a lighter line that would be the actual kick, you know, the riser there. And on this plan, we're not seeing the risers. We're also, you know, hadn't mentioned, but we have the numbering in here. So let's look at what settings are controllable by model view options here. And I still don't see Daniel Lindahl coming back. Yeah, we're going to have to reschedule for him, but let's at least pursue this, and I'll answer other questions. Perhaps if if you have other questions for me, then let me know, and I'll try to help you out. So in terms of model view options, so this is where we say the model view controls are, and says, all right, I'm in a model view called all visible and unlocked. That's going to show, in terms of construction elements, it'll show doors and windows with markers. And in terms of stair and railing symbols here, it'll show various things. The grid contour, so that the grid is the line work that defines sort of the basic steps, and it'll show both visible and hidden parts, and it'll show a bunch of different things here that are turned on. Now, if I go to Model 3D schematic, you can see this is a shorter list. So that means if I switch the model view here, some things will be different. Let's just say OK. And you can see the numbering went away. OK, so that was changing. I just did it in the dialog box, but it changed from visible and unlocked to schematic. So if I put it back here, you can see a bunch more things show. So we have some options related to the model view option. Now, the model view option is something that I can change manually like this, but I also associate it with a view. So this is just the generic US template that Graphisoft supplies that I'm working with, as opposed to master template or template for another country or a custom one that some of you might develop for your own work. If I go to the plans here for design, development, or construction documents, and I go to floor plans, first floor plan here, you can see this turned it back on. Why? Because when we're in the first floor plan, it puts on a model view option that says floor plans. That's one we hadn't looked at, but it is this one here. And it's similar to all visible and unlocked, at least for this purpose. If I turn it on visible, all visible and unlocked, oh, I do see a little bit more here, whereas when I'm on, floor plans, we'll see a slight change. So some annotation you can turn on and off with model view options. So when you're talking about going to a smaller scale, like a site plan or something like that, you would want to have a variation of the model view that would turn off some of the annotation. So if we look here and see what does Graphisoft have in this template, there's floor plans. We looked at model 3D schematic. Let's just see, do we have something for site plans, architectural site plans? Okay, it doesn't look much different than the schematic one, but architectural site plans, and certainly did simplify this view. Now, do we want to make it any simpler than that? Do we want to remove the grid lines? Do we want to remove the up or something like that? Let's just see if we wanted, for example, on the site plan to take out the word up because it's going to be too small and we just want to see the arrow or something like that. What would this be? Walking line, visible and hidden parts, walking line on here, walking line, start and end symbol. So we're in architectural site plans, symbol component show here, and railing. So we do have some controls. I don't see something that allows you to turn off, let's say that annotation specifically. But if we do compare all visible and unlocked, obviously it's showing a lot more. Do we see anything related to the text? Numbering, okay, the numbering is on there, whereas the site plan, it's not. So how do we add or change the things here? Okay. So this is something I'm not, oh, here's stair options. Okay, so this is in 3D, and here's the floor plan display, and this is, again, part of the site plan. So I could say, oh, here we have it. So I can say on site plans, I want to turn off up-down text. So now I say, okay, that up goes away. And now if I go back to floor plan, you can see it's there. But when I have a view that would be a site plan, or I manually switch the model view option to site plans, then the numbering went away, the word up went away. So there are some controls there that are accessible in model view options. Now, I just spent 5 minutes or more talking about things. Does that address your question, or are there some other things that you?
Exactly what I was asking, and that's a perfect answer. I'll have to muddle my way through all that until I get control of it. But it was excellent description.
Okay, great. So yeah, so bottom line with ARCHICAD, there are things that are you control specifically related to an element, and then there are things that you control globally based on model view options or other things, graphic overrides. And the global ones you can manually tweak, but you can also control with views. So this includes, just from a high level, what layers are turned on. That's a layer combination, and you can manually switch it, but you also, the view will choose a layer combination or a custom set that you've been working with. Now, let me just see if Daniel has come back in by any chance. No, I still don't see Daniel Lindahl in here, and there's no note. And I don't see a reply email to my thing. So we're on our own. And what that means is, since you've all taken some time to come here, all of you, we have 56 people. I want to apologize that Daniel Lindahl seems to be having some tech issues, and we'll have to reschedule for him, but I'm available. So give me some questions. Tell me what you want me to chat about or show you, or, tell me some jokes. I don't know. All right, so I'm looking at things here. Now, Steve, you shared something that you had mentioned you were going to, so let's just take a look at that. So this is in Slack. So Slack is our discussion area for the ARCHICAD coaching program. And here's an AI example. Okay, so Steve,
That's in ARCHICAD?
Should probably, that's in ARCHICAD. And then here is this. Now, if I zoom in on it, okay, that's a little better. All right, so this was, you basically just took the ARCHICAD image and said, do something. You made it, make it a nice wood and add certain things. Is that correct?
I just drag the image into Chrome AI and it does it. You don't have to describe anything.
Okay.
At least, I'm not that great at it yet, but you just drag that ARCHICAD image into Chrome AI and it will create another one, which is obviously way more photorealistic.
Yeah, so let's just look at the website. I've only played briefly with Chrome AI. I'm not sure whether it's Chrome AI or Chrome AI, but it's PROME AI.
Yeah.
AI.pro, I think, is it? Yeah. So Chrome AI or Chrome AI.pro, like being a professional, okay? And so, there's pricing, it's quite reasonable, $24 a month, $29 a month, whatever. And I think you can do some stuff for free if you, for trial, or maybe, maybe you can do a tiny bit for free without having a membership. Anyway, all tools.
I did this one
AI
for free.
image writer. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to try to do a tutorial right now, but I will say that, it'll do things that have nothing to do with architecture, like these images of people. But look at this landscape stuff. One of the things that you can do is what's called a remix. So what a remix is, essentially, you're saying, take this base image and add some stuff to it, and you can choose a style and the style can be based on another image. So let's say you have a rendering of Frank Lloyd Wright, and you just like that style, and you have a raw image. Maybe it's already got trees and people on it, or maybe not, but you say, make it look sort of like Frank Lloyd Wright. Now, in general, it's going to leave your architecture alone, your design, but it will it'll take like a human, saying, all right, I'll make a nice illustration from your 3D source, and it'll redo that. So it's quite amazing, and even though these are just small, if I click on this, I don't know if I can, yeah, okay, so you can see it can do very elaborate things with shadow and lighting and things. So anyway, this is something that I know a number of the people who are members of the Architect Marketing Institute programs have been using quite successfully. Steve is also in the Architect Marketing Institute program. So anyway, it's not something I had intended to talk about today, but with Daniel somehow having a technical issue. Oh, Daniel, he's arrived back. Okay, so here we go, Daniel Lindahl. I'm gonna, Daniel,
Hi,
are you
Eric.
there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry, Eric. When
All right, let me make you. Let me
Yeah.
make you an organizer, so then you'll be able to share your camera as well.
Okay.
So just a second here. All right, so usually it disconnects the audio for a second. There we go. So you are back.
There we go. Yes. I'm so sorry about this, everyone. Now, when I rebooted, my computer launched into a Windows update. So that took half an hour. And Eric, hats off to you. You're an educator. You present everything very well. I'm not an educator. You're so unflappable all the time. I can be flappable at times, but while my computer was rebooting, I took the time to reboot too. And I heard God telling me to not take myself too seriously. So here we go.
Okay. Well, we shall flap away, or all right. So Daniel, go ahead and show your screen. I'll make you presenter so that you can do that. I'll just take a second here.
Let's see now. Where do I do that?
So, all right. So now you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah.
And then once we have there, okay, we're seeing your Outlook.
You're seeing my Outlook now? You're seeing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're seeing?
And I'm seeing you move your mouse there. Now we're seeing the ARCHICAD project. Hooray!
Yes, okay.
Yay! Okay.
Great.
So Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into this project and the other projects that you have queued up.
Yeah. As you can see now, the OpenGL is working okay. So that's what it took, the reboot and the Windows update, and everything's back to normal. Yeah.
Okay.
And myself, well, I'm a self-taught architect. I'm a bit of a lone wolf, so it comes naturally for me to be learning on my own, and I've done that a number of times. Like when I moved from manual drafting to AutoCAD, for instance, that was when I was sent to Canada to work on a big project there. And back then, this was the late 80s, and I realized that communicating with head office back in Brisbane, it wouldn't work sending big rolls of drawings. We had to do it digitally. So I taught myself AutoCAD, and away we went with that. Then 10 years later, again, I went to Germany to work on a project there, which was an iconic building, and I knew AutoCAD was too basic for that kind of thing. So I wanted to learn ARCHICAD and taught myself ARCHICAD in that scenario as well. Now, this was in the lead up to Expo 2000 in Hanover, Germany. Now, I think you've mentioned that in your promo for this session already, so most of the people who read that would know already. Since then, I've been working as a sole practitioner and developing my skills in ARCHICAD. Early on, I realized the objects in ARCHICAD were good for all the bits and pieces that weren't major geometric components, but I saw the limitations of the library and delved into GDL. I guess it's the sort of thing that's not for everyone, but I'm a bit of a maths nerd, so I relished the challenge. And it's all about problem solving. So I guess most of us as architects are into problem solving. So I think you can sympathize with that. Anyhow,
so given
that
you've moved into this describing, your use of objects here, can you just zoom around the project, just give us a couple of minute description of the project, and then let's go to the railing and the posts, because that yes. I think shows an example of how you solved a problem, or use creative means to get what you needed done.
Are you talking about these post newels? Okay, I'll open that other project, the older project that has that in it.
Oh, that's the older one. Okay, so this one you're using the railing tool. So
yeah, okay.
All right, we'll just talk about this project then while we have it on screen.
Okay. Now that's this one here. Yeah, open. Yeah, with the railings. Well, this is a project that was done back in 2013, 2014. This is before the new stair tools and railing tools came on stream. So I was pretty much limited to objects for railings at that stage. And with that, here we go. Yeah, I developed some balustrade objects of my own, so that I could do all the settings simply and easily and in a way I could understand. But as far as the posts, I don't know if you call them newels in the States. In Australia, we call these kind of things that hold the posts that hold the railings in place newels. I needed to place them accurately in this particular project. So you can see how there are these newel posts holding the railing that are bolted to the ends of joists. That's an object I created specifically as a separate entity to the railing object, this one here, so that I could place them next to the joists that were to be fitted to. I found that useful. I also had newel posts in the railing object itself. I developed that earlier for other projects, but it was hard to get the spacing of them to coincide with where the joists needed to be. I'll concentrate on these newel posts first of all. That really is a very simple object in itself. It really is just 1, 2, 3 flat pieces of steel welded together, and you can develop that very simply in GDL once you've learned the basic language of it, and even drill the holes in these things. But
can you open up the setting?
Yeah, the settings for this object. Let's have a look at it here. with those settings, I've set up 3 different options for it. It can be a simple blade, it can be a corner post, or it can be an end post or a side post. That's one that's fitted to the side of a joist rather than the end of a joist, where it's got a fixing plate welded in the other direction. So, but as a corner post, for instance, here, that's what it looks like. And in plan view, it looks like that. Elevation view, it looks like that. Now, these views in the object, they're a very simply generated projection that's programmed into ARCHICAD, the way they've developed this language. So I developed this object further to be able to not just generate simple views like this, but also then I could choose to make a full detailed drawing of the object. If you look in the list here of settings, I've got a detailed drawing option. So if I tick that, you'll see how it generates a full detailed drawing with plan view, 2 elevations, and an isometric. Now, that's useful for placing into a worksheet that you can then put on your construction details. And I'll show you how that works in a little while. I've got a couple of parameters in here for the orthographic spacing of these, because different size objects would have different spacings. So if I've got 400 millimeters. If I change that to, say, 700 millimeters, you see how they're all spread apart to be able to annotate the whole thing easily. Anyway, for 400 spacing, then the other parameter there, oblique rotation angle, that's to do with the oblique view or isometric view. If I say 45 there, that view changes, or 60, 90. Okay, now cancel out of that, and I'll show you how this works in practice in the details. If I go to my view map, got worksheets, or actually I placed them in the details subfolder here. So deck blade newel, corner newel, which is the one we focused on. If I look at that worksheet, you see how I've placed that object in the actual worksheet. Then I exploded it so that everything would be accessible, and annotated it, dimensioned it, annotated it, and that worksheet was placed as a detail in the drawings, in the layout. Go to details to layout. No, sorry, metalwork. Wrong layout. The next one, metalwork. There you see the different details shown in my layout. Blade newel, side fixed, corner newel, end fixed. So all of that, except for the annotations and dimensioning, were generated direct in the object. Here's another one that I put the same kind of GDL scripting into that stair object. That's also a highly parametric object, and I could generate these views from that in the same manner. So these
fantastic. That is, yeah. So slick, I would say. Just the fact that once you have created the framework for the object, and obviously some objects are going to be simpler, some are going to be more complex. but then having the different views be something that it can generate automatically. That's just really slick. I love that. And then you're placing the 2D into a worksheet, and then you explode it, so then you can snap to all the parts when you're doing the annotation. Yeah, beautiful. So I recall it yesterday when we took a quick look at the project, we were looking at the roof. That would be an interesting thing in terms of this section.
Yeah, I'll go to that other project for that. This first one that we're talking about here, that happened so long ago that I really hadn't delved into the profile tool fully at that stage.
Oh, show what you have. Show what you have in that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
this is the kind of detailing I had for that one that was done in 2013. I'll go to true line weight to be able to show that in a better way. So there I was just, I didn't have good profiling management for that. So this is all very, very basic detailing. I still managed to use things like a 2D object I generated for this gutter profile to place in my detail at that stage. I should mention too, after I'd completed this project, I didn't like how the arrowheads cluttered my details, so I changed my arrowhead. That's just a by the by, we have arrowheads. Anyhow, in later projects, I made full use of the profile, like in this one here, which I completed last year. I made use of profiles for all my gutters, fascias, etc. So these are all beam tool profiles. I guess that's how most of you work with these things these days, but I'm not sure about that. Some people work differently when they get used to the standard ARCHICAD objects for gutters and what have you. But going into...
Can you bring up a section through that?
Yeah, I'll bring up a section for that. Here's one section. We've got these kind of details generated. See how that fascia and yeah, it's a barge board and barge flashing. The roof runs down the slope. All of that fascia, capping is part of one beam profile, and the beam is made to match the slope of the roof. Go to a different detail there. Section.
So I'm going to check if there are any comments or questions that have come in. So
here we go. So here we have a gutter detail. It contains the timber fascia, the metal gutter, and the end of the roofing that overhangs the gutter, all as part of one beam object. Now, if that all is fitted to the edge, the composite that makes up the roof, then you end up with a detail that shows no join between this overhang and the rest of the roofing. So it works very well. But then when I go into the detail for that, I inevitably do a bit of 2D work in the details to make them read better.
say open with current view settings or views from that detail drawing.
Views, I'll go views from that detail drawing. I don't want to have the
all related.
section
All
set.
related. There you go.
Okay, there I go. So that's how I've developed that detail from the detail call out. I've changed some of the fills to read more legibly and annotated it. So,
And you made those arrows just arrows less distracting.
yes, less distracting with just a simple arrowhead like that. Other things I've added are, these are just a 2D detail. It's a GDL object that I've created with a 2D cross box that can be resized any way you like that, to just indicate framing in my details.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, very nice. So I'm just wondering if I'm looking for questions. So I do see some other things that were put in, but not related to Daniel's presentation. So please feel free to ask questions of Daniel, and as as it's appropriate, I'll either interrupt or collect them.
yeah.
So let's take a look at the whole project, in a 3D, and we can talk about a few other things that come up there, and then we can look at some other objects that you've got that you've created beyond the one that was the new.
So this particular project, it was an old, what in Australia they call it a workers' cottage. It was old, simple timber cottages they built for workers back in the 19th century, early 20th century, as the cities grew here. And now it's become quite an affluent area. People buy these places and they obviously want them work for today's conditions. This couple wanted to build a big extension out the back with a new living area and master bedroom suite. So for the whole project, this is what it looks like. You've got the old cottage in the front there, and there's a glass link connecting it to the new extension in the backyard. This leads on to some of the objects that I have created. One of the ones I mentioned to Eric in the lead up to this was this solar panels object that I've got. It's a simple object. It's just an array of solar panels, but as you possibly can see there, I'll actually change the configuration of that. Just so that you can see more clearly, the size of the object is the size of the solar panels. In metric, it's 1940 by 1140. I'm not sure what that is in imperial, but anyway, this is a standard solar panel today. In the settings, I can insert
roughly 4 by 6, roughly 4 feet by 6 feet. So
that's right. That's right. A bit longer than 6 feet, but 6'6". I can insert watts per panel. As you know, that's grown over the years, and now we're at around 415 watts per panel, which is useful in this object because, as you see in the settings here, repeats in panel width 10, repeats in panel length 3. I'll change that repeat to 4 so we can read the object more. If you see in the floor plan view of it there, there's a text there that says how many panels and the total wattage of that array, 4.98 kilowatts. So that's very useful. If I change this to 5, you see how the wattage changes. I've also got a step top edge option for roofs where you can't fit the rectangular array, and you can do that sort of thing. So I'll go back to, what was it before? No, I'll just cancel out of that because I don't want to change the object in this particular project. But you can set the tilt angle, obviously, and there's just an image file that goes along with that object. The object calls to just show you typically what the appearance of the solar panel looks like. I've included one image, but if you want it to look different, you can just simply take a photo of a solar panel using your document settings in your phone, just so it trims it to a neat rectangle. Put that in your library, and you can make the object point to that. As you can see in the settings here, where it says 2D. No, not 2D. It's
surfaces, maybe?
Sorry?
Surfaces at the bottom of that list?
Oh, it's in the surfaces list. Yes. Surfaces. I've got the surface settings, but I've also got an option here to show the panel image and then the name of file to map. And the name of the image file that I had in the library was PD solar.
You load that file into the library, and
yeah,
and you can just put the name of the image file. Excellent.
Yes.
So I saw something that I'd like to just have you explore if you cancel out of this.
Yeah.
So there is your edge piece, the surface texture is misaligned. Now obviously some things doesn't really matter from a distance, you don't see it. But I always like saying, all right, what controls do we have? So do we have control in a beam for the source, the starting point of that texture? So if you select that and go to the document menu.
Document menu, yeah.
It has to be selected. Document.
Sorry, what do I pick? Where do I go there?
Document and then creative imaging.
Oh, okay, creative imaging.
And then we can say align 3D texture.
Oh,
and we can say set origin. Now, you may have to experiment, but let's just see if we can actually move it. So click on the corner of it right now. Because you may think it's aligned from the corner, but it may not be if you click on that.
No, actually with roof textures, they're usually aligned to the center. So see if I can find the center of this roof.
Well, the main thing is just, can you move it around at all? So let's just see if.
Yeah. Okay. Document, creative imaging.
Some things are not going to respect it, but creative imaging.
Yeah. Yes, it moves.
Just click on some other point.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, so you could play around with it, find the exact right place, or just get it as close as you need to visually. Now, by the way, if you want to keep on playing with this, I bet you there's a repeat command that we can use. You can click on another point and just see how it moves.
Yeah.
But if you go to the edit menu with it still selected.
Okay. Edit.
Go to the edit menu. We'll have it selected again, and then go to the edit menu.
Yes.
And there is, well, no, it says repeat drag. I don't think that. I was looking for it's right near the top. It will repeat the last action you have, but apparently this is not considered an action that you can just do Command B or Control B.
No.
So it's annoying, but if your visualization was something you did routinely, then you could create a keyboard shortcut for set origin,
yes.
And just keep playing with it.
Okay, so document, creative imaging, align.
So actually, I'll tell you what, let's just do this for that. Yeah, there's no keyboard shortcut there, and you can just click on another point and see that it Okay, so just so that as it becomes a teaching exercise, let's go to the options work environment.
Hey, I think I nailed it. Look at that.
Yeah, okay, but if you wanted to go around the building and do it in a few places and you didn't want to have to go through all the sub menus, it'd be nice to have a keyboard shortcut for that. So
Yes.
options menu.
Yes.
And then work environment.
Work in my environment. Yes.
And then keyboard shortcuts. Right now, you'll have to move the work environment dialog to the right so we can see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We need keyboard shortcuts, which
There we go. And
all right. And then you can do a search in where under commands it says search. Type in 3D or type in origin. That'll be best.
Yeah. Origin.
Okay.
Origin.
So set origin. Now that's different. That's a different command than set 3D origin. So it's not finding that.
No?
So go back to in the search. That'll be a different thing. So 3D, and let's see if it finds. Yeah, it's not locating it. So you may just have to clear that and go find it in.
Actually, I've already done something else. You're going the 3D shortcuts route, but what I've got now, hang on, if I select that, yes. See, I've set up a menu of my own favorite commands that I have trouble finding. If you see down the bottom of the screen here, I've got, first of all, these what do you call them?
Drafting aids.
Yeah, and then I've added all these other things in so that I can access them easily. It's not good to do that for teaching purposes, but setting origin, I can do that. Yeah, that's right. So that button there, just underneath the overrides options, I've got a button for origin, and that sets the origin as well. So that's another workaround rather than keyboard shortcuts to create your own menu.
Okay. Yeah, that's called the custom toolbar.
Yeah.
But set origin, I think, is actually in general the one that set user origin. Like on the plan, you can say I want to measure from this place and I want to see how far things are from it. You can set that.
I think we were on the right one because that's the icon I saw when we clicked on set origin. That one that shows a texture in the background and the two arrows. So it was that specific texture origin. The user origin.
Okay. So
is a different
all right. So we've now, of course, spent a little bit more time than it's worth, but definitely got a nicer look in terms of that edge. And hopefully some of you have found that interesting, just that you can, in many cases, move the position of the visual representation. In other words, where the seams are or the texture starts.
Yeah.
All right.
But let's finish that teaching of yours, Eric. Eric, I want to pursue what you were trying to do with the set origin thing. Just for a second here, because I rarely use the keyboard shortcuts, but it is useful. So if you can talk me through that just quickly again.
Yeah, so, all right, go to options.
Options, work environment.
Work environment. And then keyboard shortcuts.
Keyboard shortcuts and search. Set.
Okay, and then
Yeah, see how there's the
Now that-
icon with a texture in the
set the
background.
origin of a vector fill. Okay, that is for vector fill. Now it may be for the 3D thing, maybe it affects that as well. So let's just, because I want to, all right, so one thing is you can put in a keyboard shortcut for that. Just click in the blank area below create new shortcut, and then just type something on the keyboard, like Control-Alt-O or something like that.
Hang on.
You have to click in that. You have to
Where?
click in the blank area where.
There.
There
Click
you
here.
go.
Press,
And then just
yeah.
then do your shortcut like Control-Alt-O or something like that, or
Yeah.
Shift-Control-Alt-O.
Control-O sounds good. Currently assigned to.
Well, that's open. That would be for opening something. So you probably want to do Shift-Control-O or Control-Alt-O. You can't modify it there. You have to just type in a new thing.
Okay. So how about Control-T? No, tool settings. No.
Yeah, so generally for these things, you want to do two modifiers, Shift and Control or Alt Control. And then,
so Alt Control O. Oh, Shift Control O.
So that's open up. That's already used. Try doing Shift Control O.
Yeah, Shift Control O was open object.
Okay, so then try to do Shift Alt Control O, like three keys.
Okay.
Sometimes you may have multiple ones
that's
there.
not assigned to
So and that would be on the Mac. It would be Shift Option Command O. So anyway, you could just say assign it, and then it'll be available to you.
So
anytime you
that, it will allow me to change that. Okay, that's useful. Undo it because I had it right. All right, we can move on to.
Okay. Yeah, so show us what else is interesting about this project. That railing there, I believe, is just a standard railing in this case.
Yes, that is. I didn't make use of this Neural tool I showed you earlier. In fact, I haven't used it for quite a while because in many instances I find the standard railing easy to insert, especially when I've got favorites for my configuration of it. But if I
let me just talk about two notes here. So if we open up the settings, so just select the railing tool, or select the railing and open up the settings. And I want to just point out a couple of things related to the discussion we had earlier.
I don't know what happened here now. So
you can do previous view. It's on the far left of that navigation thing. Move your mouse to about
there you go. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So just select the railing and let's just open up the settings and.
Okay. So.
And then, all right. So I'm just going to take advantage of this opportunity to talk a little bit about what you can control in the railing tool relative to what we were showing earlier and some insights that may be helpful to you. So first of all, we have node points. In this case, just from what we had seen, it's a three-sided railing. It has two short sides and one long side. The node points typically would be at each corner, and those node points are where you have posts. Then you have intervening posts, ones in between, that are controlled by the inner posts. Now they may be exactly the same type of element, or they may be a little different. You do have control over where those corner posts are in terms of every node, every place that you click there's going to be a corner post, at least, optionally. You could leave one out if for some reason there was something else that needed to be accommodated. Now, the posts in general, the ones that are at the node points, the corners, will all be controlled by, if you go to the post settings, click on post, no, there you go. So that's the shape that's going to be. Now, each individual one could be a different shape, but in general, you're going to want to set a shape for what it is, and then most or all of the posts will be that shape. If a specific one has to be different dimension, different type of element, then you can do that. Now, the inner posts, if you click on inner posts, they're going to be all identical if you have multiple ones in any given row or side. So you can change it for one side versus another if you needed to. You can change the spacing. Hey, do we have two between, like on the currently visible side, we have, it's divided into two halves and there's a post right in the center. That's the inner post. Now you have control for the spacing, like I want it every 4 feet or 1.5 meters or whatever that is, or I want to divide it into 2 pieces or 3 or 4 or 5. It'll do that, but you don't have control over the specific position like Daniel was talking about earlier. So in the other project, Daniel, you put in custom elements and you made sure that they fit exactly in line with the, what do you call it, the structural elements in, that they needed to attach to. And that was certainly critical to depicting it accurately there. Now, you can't, depending upon your design, it may work out just perfectly. You divide it into 3, and that happens to be where those rafters are, or those joists are there. But if it doesn't, you can't control the spacing of the inner posts in the way that you might not be able to control it. You can say it starts here and it goes every, well, let's say that there's a 16-inch on center and you go every 48 inches or, 1.5 meters or something like that. So you can do that, but you don't have fine-grained control. One thing you could do is you could create another node point. So in other words, even though it might be a straight run, you might have another node that's in the middle of that run. And that node you can move to exactly the position you want. And perhaps even on that whole side, you put in multiple node points. So a node is, like when you have a polygon, you just say, hey, there's another corner here, but the corner can be in line. It can be part of the same edge, let's say. So that would be a workaround for just saying, I need to control where the posts are to be exactly in line with the supporting members there. And in that case, those would be posts rather than inner posts. And the only difference between posts and inner posts really is that inner posts are typically automatically spaced by ARCHICAD, whereas posts are related to corners or node points. And then a final note, just in terms of the way railings are handled, is that you can say at a corner things are offset a certain amount, or at an end things are offset. So for example, the railing may bump into the wall at the end, and then you have the post backed out, so it's physically exposed. It's not centered in the wall. Maybe it's attached to the wall. So you're saying that the node is at the wall, but the post center is in, half of its dimension. So those are a few notes about railings that I thought would be relevant. Oh, the other thing is, Daniel, you created this, wonderful custom part. If you wanted to use that part here, you could. Now, you probably couldn't put it in with all of the features, meaning like, oh, let's make this a thicker part and this a different length and different spacing. But you could save a version that was perfect for the inner post or perfect for the corner post as a custom object. And then that object, if you say, this object is not, I'm not probably going to use it as a freestanding one, or maybe I'll use it as a freestanding one, but I also want to create a version that can be used in the railing tool. So when you save an object, you can say, is this a door, or is it a window, or is it a freestanding object, or is it something that'll be used as a subcomponent like a post in the railings? So then you save a specific version of your smart object as a custom object that is no longer editable, but it's the perfect match for what you need. And then you just place it at these node points or as inner posts within. So that's how you would combine the power and strength of Daniel's parametric object with the organized system power of the railing tool.
Mhm.
Now, in a case like this, where you have just a few posts, there's probably not a big advantage to creating a custom object and putting it into the railing tool. You could just place those darn things where you want individually. But imagine that you had a really big project and there was a lot of railings like this. Well, then taking your custom smart object, installing it as a type of post, and then using it, that would be, obviously potentially a real convenience. So Daniel, do you have any questions about what I explained, or does that all make sense to you?
No, that all makes very good sense, and I'm glad you brought that up. I hadn't even thought about that these objects that are made could be made part of the railing tool itself. What I did think was that, okay, you can use the railing tool and just choose to not show any inner posts or corner posts at all, and then just use my separate object independently at the locations you want.
Yeah, so you can absolutely
make it look right.
You can absolutely do that.
Yes, but actually making it part of the railing tool, yeah, that's right. There's lots of scope for introducing custom profiles, custom details into the railing tool and the stair tool. I think that's got those kind of options too. So yes.
So we have a question from Brenton. Brenton, are you still selling these library parts? So the short answer from what Daniel's told me is no, because there's no convenient portal where he can just say, hey, put these up here and send me some money whenever people buy. That objects online no longer exists. So Daniel has said, all right, well, I'm just going to give away at least some of these objects to people. So Daniel, you're going to give us the railing, or give us the post tool and the solar voltaic cell tool and a few others.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. I'll just say a couple of things to that. It seems over the years the culture has changed. It's back in the early days of ARCHICAD, people would readily pay for custom objects because they needed them. The library was fairly limited, and some of these tools hadn't been developed yet in ARCHICAD in the early days, like the railing tool, the stair tool. The stair was fairly basic back in the day. Yeah, people would readily pay for special custom objects. Now, these days, just across the board on the internet, people expect to get stuff for free. I've noticed that, and when you're selling something, then there's also a commitment to keeping it working. So there's the follow-up of tweaking things if they're not quite right. If I give away things, then it's there's not the same post-sale responsibility, if you like.
Obligation to support.
Yeah, there's no obligation to upgrade and tweak and fix glitches, etc. It's a buyer beware situation.
So in terms of making the objects available, we haven't worked out the details, but I've asked Daniel to just send me some stuff that he wants to share, and yes. I will then send out an email to everybody on my list and probably post it on the ARCHICAD user website saying, hey, you can download it here, and I don't know, I might make it so that you have to be on my list or opt into my list, so that way I get a few people who aren't on the list get added to it. So that would be, I won't charge for it, of course. I do see some comments. Great show, gotta go. That was from Buzz Bryan. And Mark Hessa says, these are great, certainly would use the roof, gutter, drain. And once again, thanks to me for bringing attention to these less obvious commands that do so much. Okay, and Rich Matthews, do you know Rich? I mean, he's an Aussie. Daniel?
Yes. Sorry, Eric?
Do you know Rich? Do you know Rich
No,
Matthews?
I don't. Where are you based? Where's Rich based? I don't know if he's.
That's a good question. I know right now he's up in Canada just visiting, but he's I'll have him. Let me open up his line.
Yeah.
Because he's been a guest. He's presented some of his work in ARCHICAD User as well. So Rich, your line is open. You want to
Okay.
say hello?
Hi, Rich. Are you there?
Well,
I
he
can't
hasn't
hear
clicked
him.
on his microphone yet. Of course, he could have stepped away from the computer. So let's see, Daniel.
Actually, what
so
I
Brendan's
want to move on to now is just demonstrating another one of these tools that I sent to you, Eric. That is that interpolator. Yeah. I'll go to the floor plan here to show how that works. And I think that would be of a lot of interest to many as well. Actually, I'll turn on the site plan configuration here. So this shows the site. Now, in interpolator. Okay. This object it's an object to determine where levels are when you've only got a few survey points, survey levels, maybe ones you've taken yourself, as architects used to do before we all wanted fine-grained detail of everything. Now, if you choose a couple of, if you place the ends of this object on the places where you put levels, you see how it interpolates to even numbers, the places in between. So this object here, you look at the height of the object. If I set it to project 0, it gives these heights. The heights are -900 from project 0 at one end and +100 at the other. So there's a meter difference in the height of the object, and that reflects at the ends. It's actually a 2D object, but you can use these heights. So if I make the top of this, say 1100, you see how it interpolates a whole lot more numbers there. So from the 900 end, you've got, or the -900 end there, you've got minus
so you can,
half a meter there. You got 0 there.
So
you got half a meter up from project 0 at that point, then 1 meter up, and 1100.
Right. So you basically take your survey points.
1400. Those interpolated snap points change. And also the project
that's great because
the steepness of the gradient between those points. So you see along the line here, it says 12 degrees, 54 seconds. Or in the object, if you don't want it in degrees, you can choose a ratio like 1 in 4.7, or you can choose percentage gradient, 21.3%. And that automatically changes as you stretch the object or as you change the level of the endpoints for the object.
Okay, so you did not make it a 3D object.
Degrees again. I've got decimal degrees in there as well, if you need that. Also, the object has got the facility to use feet and inches. So, but because my work environment is set up to metric, these don't look like even distances now. If I change my work environment here to
well, that would be under options measurement units, probably.
project preferences, working units.
Working.
Feet. I'll go feet and fractional inches. Oh, no.
Now you can enter some. No, Daniel. Just enter in your bottom and top
feet.
Measurements. Now you can do it. Nice even numbers of
feet. There we go. 1.64. But okay, in the object then there's the unit interval that I need to set to something that's useful in the imperial environment. So if I say intervals at 1 foot, then you've got that.
There we go. Yeah,
you
beautiful.
Can get all those in between points, and then you can set up your site mesh according to those in between points to draw the contours. What I would normally do would be to use a polyline between various instances of this object. Say you've got 3 survey points, for instance. I'll just duplicate this here. Say you've got 3 survey points. Say this one is 3 feet, 11 inches. And you see how you get all these snappable points there, and you can begin to draw a polyline.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So say the project 0, you can do that to see where that contour line is going to go. And when you set up your site mesh, you use the standard process of generating site mesh lines from these polylines and set them up accordingly. So I find that a very useful object, and I think I've used it on just about all the projects, even where I do have a survey plan, because often you need to put in extra points to work out what's between this and this, work out levels accurately. Anyhow, any comments about that?
That's fantastic, Daniel. Daniel, you mentioned the object is 2D only, is that correct?
Others?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, is my audio working? Yeah, my audio is working. Can you hear me, Daniel?
Hello?
Daniel,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yeah, yes,
hello?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned that the object is 2D only?
Yeah, it's a 2D object because it's you can't see it in a 3D view. It's really just a 2D script, but I use the object height to set the endpoints of this 2D object so that I can find those.
Okay.
You know, do you understand what I'm saying with that?
I do understand that you're using the bottom and top measurements of a normal for a normal 3D object would correspond to the geometry. And you're
Yes.
using that as an easy input method for the endpoints, you know, it starts
Exactly.
here and it goes up to there.
Yes.
But what I'm going to suggest, Daniel, is that you use the morph, you program it with a morph element to create essentially a 3D polyline that has snap points.
Yes. Now a 3D polyline, and then you would actually see it in the 3D view as well.
Yes.
But, typically for generating site plans or site meshes rather, I usually work in the plan environment, not in the 3D environment so much. And these aren't objects that are, they're a tool more than an object to be seen in the 3D model. So that's why I didn't bother with that. But I have used this same methodology for a 3D object. I'll show you that if you like. I use that for drains, where it's useful to use the same method to set the endpoints of a drain. I've actually done that in this project. So if I go to drainage plan, hang on, where's that plan again?
So by the way, Rich Matthews said he has no microphone, but he is based in Newcastle.
Newcastle, okay. On the New South Wales coast, north of Sydney. Hi, Rich. Glad to have a fellow Aussie on board here. Anyway.
So Rick, I'm just going to read a couple of comments. So Rick says the interpolation tool would be very helpful. So definitely people are seeing, yes, this is useful. Please, we are going to share it because I know that yes. Daniel, you said that would be included. He says, Jacek says, great tool for ADA layout and checking slope and landings. So I don't know if you're familiar with ADA, but it's a US regulation for disabled access. So American for disability access or something like that. So when you're verifying that something is within the right slope for a wheelchair or other things like that, then this is good. Rodrigo says he would like to connect with you, so I'll introduce the two of you. And it would be helpful to set those also when a renovation filter in the event of new topo lines for a new building. Or would it be helpful to set those also with a renovation filter in the event of new topo lines for a new building? So these are the objects. So objects can be controlled by renovation filters. You can pin them to a particular renovation filter, or certainly say this is a new thing versus an existing or a demo. So yes, you can use the renovation filter because they're objects.
Yes. Now, I'm going to showing this other object that I've sort of generated on the same principle, on the same basis. I'll just take a copy of this. So, oh no, that's a poly. No. Here we go. I just look at this. Now, suspended sewer line. You see how it's a simple line there. Now, if I go to view, show selection in 3D. Now, this is an actual object that uses that same methodology. So if I select this object now, you can see from the points there that it's on a slope. It's actually a drain that's on a slope. It's configuration. Yeah, I've got the configuration, the end height difference. I've actually got that as one of the parameters, but it does reflect in. Yeah, so you set it in the parameters, but it does reflect in the object height if you want to see that at a glance. And that describes the angle of that drainage pipe. I've got an option to measure to the bottom of the section, center of section, or top of section. Usually with drains, I measure to the bottom of the section because that's about water flow. And when you see a drainage plan, you want to know the invert levels that drains flow from and to. With this drain, I want to reset to metric here because I find it hard to work in imperial. So where we options, project preferences, working units.
There you go.
Millimeter. Okay. So going back to the object again. See how the end height difference is 120. If I change that 120, which is also the object height, to say 500, see how the slope of the pipe changes. So it's no longer about the height of the object itself, it's about the end height difference. And you see how that other parameter that says drain angle, it's now 3.56 degrees. Changing the drain end height difference to say 1 meter, that changes. Oh, no, I changed it up there, that's right, 1 meter. Yeah, it changes to 7 degrees, 7.09.
Okay, so, and what you have, your section, you have 2 round section, and so is that something that can be selected? You can change which
yes
section it is?
Yeah, box section or round section. Those are the only options I've got for this pipe. But I'll reduce the length of this to say 3 meters so that we can see the object more clearly in this view here. I've also got an option to put scouring pads on the ends of the object, which are these kind of things. So say it's a big culvert drain, for instance, instead of 100 millimeter pipe, it's a 450, 50. That's roughly 18 inches pipe. Where's my that's configuration? Drain width. There we go. 50. So now you can have a culvert under a driveway, for instance. So that's what that looks like. And these scouring pads, I've got parameters for the different sizes of that too, the connecting wall width and height, pad depth, wall end height, concrete thickness, display angle. So that's cool object that I've used a fair bit.
Yeah, very cool.
And that's actually a round hollow pipe. I'll see if we can see that in this view here. Change the angle to 1500. No, I can't tweak it like that. Okay. Here in the 3D view, you can see how it's actually hollow. So that's how it shows up in any sections you cut. Now I use that, yeah, I use that extensively in these projects as well. So I'll look at some of these sections. Yes, there you can see one of them. That's actually my object there in the ground. You see where it sits under the surface of the ground at whatever point you cut the section.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
So
now,
is there anything else in terms of your, well, anything else in terms of objects or the project that would be noteworthy, interesting to look at?
with this particular project, well, this section, for instance, is cut through a the old cottage, and in the hallway, it's got these kind of archways, timber archways, which were popular in the early 20th century when they built these. So that was a morph that I turned into a window. I first made that from a morph, and I made that a window to be able to insert that into the wall there. There's another one of these in the project. So go back to 3D view options. Where is it? Elements in 3D view. Okay. Where's my 3D visualization? Okay. There we go.
So those of you here still, please post any questions or comments if you appreciate Daniel's work. You know, of course, just kind words are always appropriate. And if you have any questions, things that you want him to show, then that's always something that we can do. We're reaching the 2-hour mark, so we're going to be cutting it off in a few minutes.
Okay.
Obviously, we didn't get the full 2 hours with you, Daniel, due to the tech issues, but we certainly have had plenty of time to see some of your work. So these ornate details here, you've done them with the morph tool, and then you've installed them as window elements so that they can be put into the wall. Is that correct?
And yeah, this one here, I installed as a window object as well. I installed it separately to the door itself. I set the door with a transom panel and just had the transom panel empty so that I could insert this as a window in that transom.
Have you ever?
This is a very common feature of Queensland houses of that era. seeing that kind of fan light.
Mhm.
It's just a
Yeah,
ventilation.
it's lovely.
opening.
Have you ever created a custom leaf for a door? Because you potentially could put that in not as a
Yes, I have.
not as a
I
window
have.
by itself.
Yes, I have, but not in this particular project. So with
Right.
custom
Okay.
leaves, I think you've outlined that process previously in a couple of sessions.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
first day.
So ultimately, when you create it, the typical way, just I'm going to step in as a teacher, the typical way is you'll model that lying on the ground. So that piece of
Yes, I've
that
modeled
ornate
that.
element would be
Yes.
lying flat, and then you save it. You can either, well, there are three different ways that I can think of. You can either rotate it up as a morph, because morphs you can rotate freely in space. So you rotate it 90 degrees, and then that thing you just move into position. Another possibility is that you just have it lying flat and you save it as a window or a door leaf. And ARCHICAD will say, oh, it's lying flat. That's the common way to do this, and I will put it in vertically in the wall. Actually, you technically
Eric,
can. Yep.
And I think these ones, I didn't even use the morph tool. I just modeled a slab lying flat on the ground and converted that into a window. So
right.
You don't even have to use the morph tool for that.
Right. So just a slab with holes in it. And,
yes.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Lovely detailing. You know, it really adds to the feeling that this is a period piece.
Yes.
Why don't they build like that anymore?
That's interesting. I think carpenters took a lot of pride in the work they did back then, and they loved putting these touches in. Now, I heard an interesting little fact, or read an interesting little fact the other day in the news that 30 years ago, they built houses twice as fast as they do today. So it takes twice as long to build a house today as it did 30 years ago. So the building industry really hasn't kept up with advances in other fields as far as speeding up the process. In fact, it's slowed down. And that's why housing is so much more expensive today than it was 30 years ago. Part of it
now,
is...
Why do you think that why do you think things are less efficient or take more time to install?
I think there are two factors to it. One is that we do put a lot more technology into our building today than we did 30 years ago. 30 years ago, it was basically just carpenters and masons working together to put it up, and that was it. Now, it's for good and for bad. It's for good in that today's houses are so much more energy efficient with insulation and addressing all the issues of damp in buildings, all the other issues that they've discovered over the years with the building, rot, damp, thermal insulation, what have you. So all of those things add to the cost of doing the building, but they reduce the running costs. We don't spend nearly as much on running heaters, etc. But the other thing is also all the safeguards in the building industry that we've had to implement, because there were a lot of accidents back then, because there weren't so many safeguards in place for workers. All of that conspires to make the whole thing take longer, cost more, and makes housing more unaffordable for low-income earners. So it's a difficult nut to crack, but hopefully we'll find some ways to resolve those issues in years to come.
So I have a couple of questions, feedback as well. So Dean Johnston, thanks you. Very interesting and excellent work. Many thanks. Brenton Rashid says, I'm in Australia too. Eric would love to get in touch with Daniel. I'm in Melbourne, but in Brisbane quite often. Happy to share my details with him so I can introduce you. But also I did post in the email the link to Daniel's website. So Daniel Lindahl Architecture. So you can just look that up, but or just in the email, you'll see the link. And that, of course, you can get in touch that way. Now, Rodrigo, I wonder how the door frame does, includes that window. And so go back to the, where you had the ornate transom. And I just want to open up the door settings.
Okay. About that one there.
Just select the door itself.
Yeah, that one. The door settings.
Okay, and then open up the settings.
I should. Yeah, settings there. It's
and
just
then
the standard
the, hinge door setting. Yeah. Yeah,
now,
the shape. So there's it's.
Let's see where I eliminated the transom sash type.
Okay, so right now you've got a custom sash and it's blank. So what that means is he's saying leave space in here for something that I'm going to put in, but I'm not putting in anything right now. So it's just a blank open area. And then of course he's putting in a separate element, which is a window. Now you could have created that as a custom sash and just put it in, and then you wouldn't need a separate window. Yeah.
No.
And so the way you would do that is you would select that on the plan, and instead of saving it as a window or an object, you would say save it as a door, well, actually a window sash. So a window sash would be functionally similar to a door leaf. It's something that goes into a window that has a definition.
Okay, so the sashes,
so
custom sashes in the door settings, does that
yeah.
choose from window sashes? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I could have done that.
Yeah. So the element lying down on the ground, you select it. You go to the File menu, Libraries and Objects, Save Selection As, and then one of the choices is Window Sash. Another choice would be Door Leaf, and other choices, of course, like Object or Door or Window. All right. So that explains that. Quickly.
Good to know.
And Rodrigo says he's tutoring himself now, and he got it, so he understands, what you did. So I think we're at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to show us, Daniel?
No, I should just mention, was it Rodrigo who was talking about going to Brisbane? I should mention I'm not in Brisbane. I used to live in Brisbane and did a lot of work there, and I still do. 4 years ago, we moved to Tasmania, so I'm now in Tasmania. But that's all right.
That was Brenton. That was Brenton. That he gets to Brisbane regularly. So I don't know where Tasmania is relative to any of those, but
okay.
At least it's now. So you're in Tasmania, and what town?
Sorry, I'm in
What
Hobart,
town
in Tasmania. Hobart.
Oh.
Tasmania is the little island that hangs off the south bit of Australia. So it's right down south. Well, Brisbane and Queensland is up north.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you would regret not showing us?
No, not at the moment. I'd mentioned that panel lift door briefly, but I didn't get around to showing that. Maybe that's something we can go over another time.
Well, is that something that you can just show us right now?
Any of your people, any of you people out there, feel free to contact me. You can see my email in the interface here, if you hover over my name, I think you should be able to see my email address in
Hover
in
over your
webinar
name
settings.
where?
So feel free to contact me by email, any of you, or phone.
Okay, I'm not, we're not seeing what you're sharing, just the ARCHICAD window, I guess, or anyway, I
Yes.
don't see what you were hovering over that has your name and email.
Okay, when I go into the attendees list.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't see what you're hovering over in
No,
the
if you hover over the names,
GoToWebinar interface.
in the webinar list, if you hover over the attendee names, you see both the name and the email in all those settings. So I can see,
Okay.
who did you say, was it Stuart who's in Australia? Yeah, Stuart Blake, Stuart_Blake@bigpond.com.
Okay. Well, we're not seeing what you're putting on what you're seeing. So anyway,
No.
if anyone wants to reach Daniel, you can go to his website and do that, or you can reach out to me and I'll help connect you.
Okay.
So Daniel, you mentioned one other thing that you said I was going to show. Is it open on your, like, can we switch over to it and just take a?
It's not open in any of these projects, but I can easily put it in if there's time. I'll just
Yeah, we'll take another 5 minutes or another little bit.
I'll go to the floor
Obviously, we
plan.
had the tech issue.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that, but these things happen.
Yeah, I know. Things happen.
Yeah. So if I just
Okay. So
place a
Brenton
wall here.
says near Melbourne. Okay. And Tom says you go ahead and open it. I'm just going to read some comments here. Tom says the interpolation object line with elevation point slope would work nicely for showing slopes on a site plan for the surface water runoff paths required on health department approval plans with on-site septic systems. Can you put an arrow on the end of it?
Okay. You put an arrow on the end of it, not in that object as it stands at the moment.
So obviously you could just draw something to make it look like it was an arrow direction. So that would be a quick workaround.
Yeah, but
All right.
I should mention
Rick
with
says
this,
there's a world.
talking about arrow, looking at this sewer line object, which was built on a similar principle. In that object, you can choose what line type it has. So if I choose the drain line type as the arrow tool, it shows an arrow line. Now, I found that the standard object in ARCHICAD for the arrow tool a bit deficient in that it only points in one direction depending on which way you draw the line. So I created a second arrow line that runs in the other direction, identical to that first one. I don't think I've got it in this project here, but since then I've developed that so that arrow line type can point in either direction, and then I can choose the other one for showing the drain falling downhill.
Mm-hmm.
And I should develop that interpolator tool so that it does have an arrowhead option.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that for future reference.
Yeah, good feature suggestion. So I do see Renee said, Renee, male or female, I don't know, just has the thing about the email. Daniel's email is under staff listening. Jacek says that. So okay, you can get it from there. All right, so several people pointed that out. I didn't see it come up, but all right, you have this panel. There we
Panel
go.
lift
Okay.
door that I've inserted into this wall now. I'll go to 3D and just look at that. Selection. Okay, that wall isn't very high, but wall settings.
By the way, Rick says that there's a World Croquet tournament going on in Tasmania as we've been that he's been watching. Check out YouTube. So I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a croquet tournament. All right.
No, nor did I. I don't know what's happening with this wall here. That's strange. Something to do with this project. That is very odd.
You may have some intervening, some other thing that has a higher priority. So if you put it on a layer that doesn't intersect, you know, maybe. Or just drag it up or down, you know, just so we can see.
What is going on? Problem with the wall. Okay. There we go.
Or make it a simple. There you go. So now it's stronger than whatever else it was intersecting with.
Yes. So this door, I think, does all the things that I think it was Steve who was wanting to put glazed openings in one of the panels of one of these panel lift type doors, and that's exactly what I've got in this object. So there in this object I can nominate how many panels, say it's 5 panels, or I can fix the panel height. Say the panel height is 450, for instance, that's 18 inches. And I've got parameters for the guide track, the track path, what height the tracks return at the ceiling level, and even the angle of the ceiling track if it doesn't return to flat. And the window panels. Number windows in width, 4 there. I can change that to 5. And you can see it changed in object, or 3. There I indicate how many panels, number of panels with windows, 2 or 1 or 3. How many full panels below the windowed panels. So you see how that's a very versatile object. Not only that, but in the plan view, depending on the height of the door, say the door opening, at the moment it's 3 meters wide, that's 10 feet by 2400, that's 8 feet. Say the door opening is actually 27 high. You see how the plan view of where the panels extend to in the up position gets bigger correspondingly. The door opening is just 2100 high, it drops back to that kind of size. So it shows accurately what part of the ceiling area is covered by the open door as well.
Excellent.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about this object, but that just came to mind as we were in the lead up to this session, because of
Right. I remember
our discussion
Steve,
a couple of weeks ago.
having,
Yeah.
Steve having his own custom garage door
Yes.
there. So thank you, Daniel. Really fascinating to see just a glimpse. Obviously, you've got a big body of work, designs as well as GDL. So there's no rush in terms of getting the package of library things, but we'd all love to see it and start using it sooner than later. So just
Yes.
put together something, and then of course if you say, hey, here's some stuff, and then I have a few more things I'll clean up a little bit before I send you. It can be in a couple of batches, whatever makes sense for you. Appreciate your generosity, and I hope you enjoyed being in front of the group.
Yes, I did, Derek. I did send 3 of these objects to you already: the interpolator, the this panel lift door, and the solar panels. But I will send you that stair newel as well, since we discussed that here, so that you'll have all of those available to hand out to people who ask for them. And thank you all for listening in. It's been very enjoyable. Thanks, Eric, for allowing me to share.
Oh, by the way, Tom says, what does the panel lift door look like in 3D when you have it open 50%?
Oh, hang on. I'm not sure that I've got open options built into this one. No, track champ. I didn't build the object that way, so it only shows in closed position.
Okay.
Now,
So,
my other roller door object, which is another one, I think I did have an open, percentage open, 50%, like that. That was far easier to develop that way, but the panel lift door with an open position, since they're panels, it's pretty hard to do that for an infinite range of options like this percentage open, if you can understand. Yeah. So I don't have the option to have it partially open or fully open. I could develop a fully open one, but I don't think that would be useful in a model so much.
Right.
As you can see there from my interface of my objects, I've also got a barn door. Is that something that you have started using lately in the States? It's become very popular here in Australia, having these kind of barn doors.
I've seen it in design. So heck, if you have something that's got some nice features. Now, by the way, I'm going to give one more tip as far as users. We can see this object well enough, but the edge lines are not there. We're not seeing the contours, and contours can make it easier to just understand. So you can just say, okay, leave this as the latest thing that you have open. Just hit okay so that it, no, this is not where we're going. Okay, well, there is that. But what I want to say is just say okay and go out of it.
Okay.
All right. Now go to the options work environment.
Options work environment.
Because this is something that I found. The default setting is not good. I much prefer. So you want to go to, I think it's dialog boxes and palettes. But it could be under, there's some other ones that we can see, dialog boxes and palettes. Let's see.
What are we looking for here?
Maybe it's on-screen options a little lower down.
Okay.
Yes. second from the top, show contours on favorites and library part previews. So click on that and then just say okay. And then just go open it again.
Yes.
Just open, select the door and open it.
Okay.
Now change that where you don't have the contrast.
Sorry. What?
Well, in other words, you have some contrasting colors. Well, earlier you had, it was all color. So.
Okay. Yeah, that was because of the material settings. As you can see, the horizontal leaf rails missing. There are a lot of surfaces that are missing in this. That was a problem. Okay.
Okay. Well, the demonstration is not as dramatic as I had hoped. It may have to do with the line work that you've got. Is there a pen setting for the edge lines?
No, 2D frame pen frame. That's possibly in floor plan and section. Symbol line pen. I'll make that black.
There we go. Okay.
There we
now
go.
Just change it to red. Just change it to red and just show what. No. Just leave it open. I mean, leave the dialog box open and just change that line pen that you were just.
Okay.
There, you can see the red is showing up now. Do it as an elevation view. In the window dialog or the door dialog.
Yeah.
There. Okay. So what you're able to do is in the 3D preview, which is OpenGL, you can see this line work. If you have that setting that I just had Daniel turned on, if that's not turned on, then it all is just sort of, it's a little mini rendering. And of course, if everything's white or everything's, some particular similar color, you don't see the edges very clearly. But when you use that option work environment to show contours in library part previews, it is much easier to see, what's going on in most cases.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and thank you again, Daniel. And we'll be sharing, just some little potpourri of objects, useful objects. And you can always look up Daniel through his website. And if you want to have a specific question and get his direct email, you can contact me. So we'll be back next month with another ARCHICAD user, and in between, I am doing the ARCHICAD coaching program, and these days I'm just letting anyone come who could benefit from my help. It makes it much more fun when there are 30 people on the line and we have 10 people or even half a dozen asking questions. So you're invited to join me for the ARCHICAD coaching program. So thanks all.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you all. And anyone, feel free to contact me if you want to. Bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. And Nancy says, Daniel's website, so it's Daniel Lindahl architecture.com. Is that what it is?
Lindahl Arch, Lindahl.com.
Why don't you bring up your website just before we close then?
Yes.
And then we can just see that, and of course the Lindahl Arch. So
okay, there's my website.
DLindahlArch.com. There it is. Okay, so there it is. And yeah, Nancy says I want to download the objects. Yeah, I will post that. So you can get it, through my email list or through the ARCHICAD user website. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you all. Bye.